Hello, and welcome, dear listeners. Take a deep breath now and start to unwind. Tonight, we're sharing an extraordinarily calming story designed to guide you gently toward a deep, peaceful sleep. If you find true rest here, please subscribe to join our community of peaceful sleepers. Let's begin the journey into stillness. The air in blue Heron Bay, Maine, was perpetually dusted with fine, cold mist, carrying the clean, sharp smell of the North Atlantic. It was a place where time didn't rush. It simply pooled, like the high tide in the quiet harbor. Maya had chosen this small coastal town for its obscurity. For 10 years, her life had been a frantic composition of deadlines, concrete, and the relentless beep of a city far away. She needed an interlude, a long pause where the only project was the rediscovery of silence. She pulled her old Subaru onto the gravel drive of the rental cottage, the sea foam, just as the last wash of evening light disappeared behind the low gray clouds. The cottage was exactly as advertised. Small, shingles weathered silver gray by a century of storms, and nestled so close to the shore you could taste the salt on the windows. Inside, the light was soft and golden. The cottage smelled beautifully of aged wood, dust, and a lingering scent of peat smoke. She lit the small fireplace, the scratch of the match and the crackle of the kindling loud in the sudden stillness. She watched the fire take hold, a simple, honest flame, feeling the heat begin to push back the evening chill. Part 1. The Rhythm of the Unhurried Shore. Maya unpacked slowly, savoring the deliberate movements. Her suitcases held only the essentials: wool blankets, a stack of old books, her grandmother's heavy sketch pad, and a few navigational charts she had hoped to revisit. There were no immediate plans, no schedule to adhere to. That first night, the sounds of the bay were her lullaby. The most prominent was the foghorn, a low, resonant oomph. Oomph that came every 30 seconds, mournful yet utterly reliable. Below that steady beat was the persistent shush of the tide dragging pebbles across the rocky beach outside, a sound that erased all the noisy memories of her previous life. She slept deeper than she had in years. The next morning, she woke not to an alarm, but to the gentle rhythmic chime of the bell buoy far out in the harbor, signaling the subtle currents. She began her routine immediately. Before sunrise, while the air was crisp and the mist heavy, she walked the shore. The sand here was coarse and mixed with stones, smoothed by endless friction. She didn't walk fast. She moved as the tide moved, slowly and deliberately. She started collecting sea glass, tiny fragments of human history, tumbled and polished by the sea, turning sharp edges into soft, frosted jewels. Each piece demanded focus. A pale aqua shard, a deep sapphire blue, a milk-white opaque curve. They were small treasures of patience. Her gaze dropped constantly, allowing her mind to empty as her eyes searched the wet, shifting ground. This simple, repetitive action, search, find, pocket, was profoundly soothing. Part 2. The Blue Heron Bookstore. The only place Maya consistently visited in the small town was the local bookstore, named, predictably, the Blue Heron. It was housed in a building that sagged slightly with age, its sign painted faintly in peeling gold leaf. The moment she stepped inside, the modern world vanished. The air was a rich, complex mixture of leather, dry paper, and wood polish. The store was dark, lit by strategically placed brass lamps that highlighted the endless rows of packed shelves. The floorboards creaked softly with every step, a comforting, acoustic counterpoint to the distant foghorn. Behind a high, worn mahogany counter sat James, the proprietor. He was a man composed of quiet movements and slow smiles, perhaps in his late 70s, wearing a comfortable tweed vest and glasses perched low on his nose. "Good morning," James said, his voice a low, gravelly tenor that suited the room. "The new biographies are on the shelf to the left, but I suspect you're looking for something older." Maya often spent hours there, not reading, but simply browsing. She ran her fingers over the spines of books she'd never open, admiring the textures and the faded colors. One afternoon, tucked away on a bottom shelf in the maritime history section, she found a book unlike any other. It had no title on the spine or cover, just plain, faded canvas. It was heavy and smelled intensely of salt and mildew, as if it had been pulled from a wreck. She opened it carefully. Inside, the pages were thick and creamy, filled not with text, but with exquisite, hand-drawn navigational charts of Blue Heron Bay and the surrounding coastline. They were dated roughly a century ago, drawn in India ink with meticulous detail. They showed channels long since silted up, rocks that had been blasted away, and the positions of forgotten oyster beds. It was a map of memory. "Ah," James murmured, appearing silently beside her. "The Mariner's Atlas, a local legend. Believed to have belonged to Captain Silas, a fisherman lost in the Great Storm of '38. Maya bought the book immediately, the heavy, smooth paper feeling important and substantial in her hands. The Mariner's Atlas became Maya's quiet, obsessive project. It was a perfect sleep-inducing endeavor, slow, detail-oriented, and utterly non-stressful. Each afternoon, she would spread the delicate charts out on her large wooden table by the cottage window. The light at this hour was diffuse, filtered by the coastal haze, making the ink lines stand out beautifully. She had retrieved her own set of modern, government-issued NOAA charts of the same area. The work was an exercise in comparison and patience. She used a fine-tipped pen and a steady hand, comparing the old chart's depth soundings and lines of latitude to the new ones. The differences were subtle but profound. The coastline had retreated in some places, advanced in others. A small island on Captain Silas's map was now merely a submerged sandbar on the modern chart. She worked for hours, sometimes accompanied only by the sound of the wind sighing around the corners of the cottage, or the gentle, even tick-tock of the grandfather clock she had found in the corner. The focus required was deep, yet calming. It felt like solving a slow, beautiful puzzle, a way to connect with a history that had been washed over by time. James often joined her, bringing fresh brewed coffee and an easy, non-demanding presence. "The sea takes, and it gives back," James commented one afternoon, his finger tracing a faint hand-drawn line on the old map. Silas knew the bay better than anyone. He didn't rely on instruments. He relied on the sound of the water against the hull. He was mapping the music of the bay, not just the geography. Their conversations were quiet, spaced by long silences that held no awkwardness, only mutual comfort. They spoke of the slow lives of the lobstermen, the migration patterns of the herring, and the exact shade of blue that appeared in the eastern sky just before the sun broke the horizon. Everything was simple, observable, and soothingly predictable. Part 4. Following the sound of the water. After weeks of careful comparison, Maya and James concluded that Captain Silas had charted a small, hidden cove, a safe harbor known only to him, that was now accessible only during the highest, calmest tides. It was a beautiful, clear Tuesday when they decided to go find it. The bay was still, glassy and dark blue, reflecting the perfect white clouds overhead. The foghorn was silent, a rare gift. They took James's small wooden skiff, the Quietude. It was a heavy, reliable boat, powered only by a set of sturdy oars. Maya wore a thick wool sweater and felt the cool, moist air against her face. As they moved away from the docks, the sounds of the town, the distant generator, the clank of the rigging, faded. Soon, the world was reduced to 4 elements: the boat, the water, the sky, and the deep, rhythmic, creaking thump of the oars in the oarlocks. Maya closed her eyes. The sound of the water slipping past the hull was a gentle, continuous whisper, a sound unique to the ocean when it is entirely at peace. Shh, whoosh, shh, whoosh. The sound of the oars was heavy and purposeful, a deep, comfortable rhythm that matched the slow, steady beat of her heart. James navigated by memory and by Silas's chart, which was now protected in a waterproof case. They were looking for a specific cluster of 3 granite monoliths, which, according to the map, marked the narrow entrance. The air grew heavier, the silence almost absolute. They rowed for another 20 minutes until James gently shipped his oars. The silence was immediate and profound. "Listen," he whispered. Maya listened. She could hear only 2 things: the soft, slow drip of water returning from the oars to the surface of the bay, and the distant, deep intake and release of her own breathing. Then she saw it. The 3 rocks, partially shrouded in a wisp of low-lying mist, perfectly aligned just as Captain Silas had drawn them. The entrance to the cove was narrow, guarded by smooth, moss-covered stones. James carefully maneuvered the Quietude between them. Inside, the cove was like a natural liquid amphitheater. The water was perfectly still, the color of jade, and the entire space was ringed by tall, silent spruce trees. It was utterly protected from the world. They drifted there for a long time, not speaking, simply allowing the perfect, heavy silence of the cove to settle into their bones. The scent here was pure spruce and cool, damp earth. The boat rocked infinitesimally, a quiet cradle on a glassy sea. Maya felt the last remnants of anxiety, the subtle, constant hum of the old city life, drain out of her. She was empty of worry, full of peace. Part 5. The Gentle Surrender. The return trip was equally silent, rowing back across the darkening bay as the stars began to appear. The air was now cold, crisp, and clean. Back in her cottage, the fireplace was a bed of glowing embers. Maya moved through the motions of the late evening, pulling the thick wool blankets high onto her bed, changing into soft, comfortable clothing, and setting the mariner's atlas carefully onto the bedside table. She stood by the window for a final moment, looking out at the black, immense ocean. The low cloud cover had dissipated, revealing the true, infinite, star-swept sky. The Big Dipper was suspended directly over the silent harbor, clear and bright. In the distance, the town's faithful rhythm had returned. The regular, deep oomph, oomph of the foghorn, like a huge, slow, comforting heartbeat. The tiny chime of the bell buoy, the rattle of a loose window pane in the gentle sea breeze. She climbed into bed. The sheets were cool, the blankets heavy and soft. She closed her eyes. She imagined the quietude safely docked, the thick, heavy ropes holding it fast. She imagined James, warm in his own home, the light of his small reading lamp finally extinguished. She imagined the sea glass on the shore, continually tumbled and softened by the tide, waiting for the sun. The low hum of the universe seemed to settle into the room, a profound and simple peace. With every slow, deep breath, she was drawn further down into the cool, dark comfort of the night. Her thoughts slowed, simplified, and finally surrendered to the rhythmic, undeniable peace of blue Heron Bay. The soft, distant sounds of the New England coast were the only reality now, guarding her as she drifted into a deep, long, and well-deserved sleep. The tide is pulling out. The wind is soft. Rest now.